In this lesson, you will learn about the components that make up a basic hydraulic system and how the two types of basic system operate. The Bramah press was, as previously mentioned, a passive hydraulic system. However, apart from light aircraft brakes, it is of little practical use to us. Most aircraft hydraulic systems are active systems, where a pump supplies the pressure. There are two types of active hydraulic system in common use. They are known as the open center system and the closed system. There are 6 main components common to both systems: a reservoir of oil, a pump, selector or control valves, an actuator or actuators, filters, and a relief valve. We will begin by explaining how the components of the two basic systems integrate with each other. Then, in later lessons, describe the various components in greater detail. The simplest hydraulic system used in aircraft is the open center system. Its main disadvantage is that only one service can be operated at a time. Fluid flows from the pump, through the pressure filter to the first selector valve. If the service connected to this valve is not operating, then the valve will be in the position shown, and the fluid will flow through the central port to the second selector valve. If this service doesn't require fluid, then this valve will also be in the position as shown, and again the fluid will flow through the central port. This can continue for as many valves as required. When the fluid passes through the last valve in the sequence, it returns to the reservoir. This allows the engine-driven pump to run in an off-loaded condition, as little pressure is generated, but there is still a flow of oil through the pump to cool and lubricate it. On selection of a user system, the fluid is directed to the actuator, which will move. The fluid from the other side of the actuator will return to the reservoir via the central port of the second selector. When the actuator reaches the end of its travel, the selector is returned to neutral in order to offload the pump and allow other services to be selected. The relief valve will relieve excess pressure if the selector is not returned to its neutral position. This type of system is popular in many light aircraft, which do not require a constant pressure to be maintained all the time. Only items such as landing gear and flaps will be powered for short periods of time on each flight. The closed system is used on almost all larger aircraft. Its great advantage being that multiple services can be operated at the same time. Their use is only limited by the volume flow capacity of the pump. With this system, operating pressure is maintained in that part of the system which leads to the selector valves, and some method needs to be used to prevent overloading the pump. In systems which employ a fixed volume constant delivery pump, an automatic cutout valve is fitted to divert pump output to the reservoir when pressure has built up to normal operating pressure. In other systems, a variable volume constant pressure pump is used. This type of pump automatically reduces delivery flow as pressure increases. We will examine both of these pumps in greater detail in the lesson on pumps. This system operates its services in the same way as the open center system. The selector valve is moved, opening up pressure and return lines to the required service. However, there are two important differences. Firstly, as shown here, 2 or more services can be operated at the same time. And secondly, it is not so important to return the selector valve to neutral once the operation is complete, as the pump control system is designed to deal with the consequent pressure increase. Nonetheless, in most systems, the selector valve is returned to neutral, as this performs the important function of producing what is known as a hydraulic lock across the actuator. What this means is that the fluid is locked in on both sides of the actuator. Consequently, because the fluid is incompressible, the actuator will not be able to produce any undemanded movement. In some simple light aircraft systems, a hydraulic power pack is used. This consists of an electrically driven pump which is controlled by a pressure-operated switch, with an integral reservoir and an accumulator. When the service is selected, pressure will drop, causing the accumulator piston to move up, switching on the pump. The pump will operate until the service reaches its required position, and the accumulator is repressurized, when it will be automatically switched off again. You should now understand the differences between the open center and closed hydraulic systems. Bear in mind that the big advantage of the closed system is that 2 or more services can be operated simultaneously, whilst in the open center system, you are limited to operating 1 service at a time. You should now also understand the meaning of the term hydraulic lock.